British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Welcome to your news at 3:30. My name is Sandra Vargas, and this is The Crow. May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Our reporter Eden Schipperfield has more on what one organization is doing to include AAPI influences year-round.
Dragon Boat BC has a full calendar year-round. The nonprofit organization hosts multiple events like the Dragon Zone Paddling Club, Burnwater Spring Sprint, and the upcoming Concord Pacific Dragon Boat Festival that showcase Asian influence. Dominic Lai, the Senior Development and Marketing Director of Dragon Boat BC, says that the association prides itself on its roots.
We operate on a pretty set calendar, and there's only so much capacity as a nonprofit we have. But I think that what we try and do is we try and take the spirit behind Asian Heritage Month, and we kind of apply that to our operations throughout the year, sometimes in more subtle ways, sometimes in more overt ways. I think that what we do is we create that opportunity for conversation year-round, and that's kind of our contribution to the community.
Eden Schipperfield, BCIT News.
The price of real estate is seeing a trend downwards across the Lower Mainland, but for many buyers, relief is still out of reach. Quinlan Curry reports on what this market shift really means.
Home prices may be cooling in Metro Vancouver, but buyers are still feeling the heat. Despite a drop in sales and a growing number of listings, the average price for a detached home still sits above $2 million. It's a market shift, but not a reset, and first-time buyers aren't feeling much relief. Local realtors say sellers are having to adjust expectations, while buyers are proceeding with caution. The Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver reports April sales were nearly 30% below the 10-year average, indicating a cooler market ahead. Experts remind buyers to review mortgage options carefully, get pre-approved early, and stay informed as the spring market continues to shift. Quinlan Curry, BCIT News.
BC Premier David Eby is speaking out following the divisive call order issued by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency on one BC Interior family's ostrich farm. Eby says the province has been frustrated by the actions of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, going on to highlight that although they understand they need to contain the avian flu, there's a lack of ability to evaluate on a case-by-case basis.
Devastating for this family, for this farm, for these folks who are trying to build a life for themselves. And I hope the federal government looks very carefully at appropriate compensation to ensure they're made whole, and not that can fill in for the massive loss that they've seen.
The federal court ruling says the family can be compensated to a maximum of $3,000 for each bird. Meanwhile, an animal protection group has urged the federal government to pause the cull and consider, quote, whether killing the birds still makes sense considering how much time has passed since the initial order was issued. The younger generation in Vancouver is realizing that the thought of owning a home is becoming an unobtainable dream. Our reporter Isabella Vertone spoke with a local real estate agent about the realities of owning a home.
As the dream of buying a home is becoming just that, a dream, people are turning to long-term rentals as their permanent homes. With the demand being so high in rental properties, the cost is also going up due to the competitiveness in the market. Masa Radvar, a local real estate agent based in West Vancouver, gives her advice on the rental market.
Got licensed. I never thought at the time I would need to many years ago. I thought, I would just do sales. But yeah, certainly, I've been doing more and more rentals for clients, and we can't actually do property management without the license properly. So it makes you think maybe that is the move. Definitely. I think that could be attractive for sure to help out some of these younger people.
Real estate agents are shifting their focus to the rental market as that's where the population is moving towards. This seems to be the reality for Canadians in Vancouver for the foreseeable future. Isabella Vertone, BCIT News.
We're now joined by Isabella Vertone in studio. Hi, Isabella. So why is the rental market booming compared to the housing market?
Well, the rental market is quite popular right now because no matter how old you are, it's become extremely difficult to buy a home, especially in Vancouver. So the younger generation has moved more towards finding long-term rental properties instead.
I see. And do you think realtors are going to shift more into the rental market opportunities?
Yes, I think especially the realtor who I spoke with, she's traditionally selling homes and she's going to look more into getting her rental license so she can give advice to her clients who really just want long-term rentals from now on.
All right. Well, thank you for speaking with us, Isabella. A new rooftop childcare center opened in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood yesterday, fully funded by the City of Vancouver. Reporter Nate Elms has more on the story.
The $14.2 million center opened Tuesday on the rooftop of Eric Hamber Secondary School. The program was funded by the City of Vancouver, and the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood House was selected to operate it. A 2023 survey found that for every 100 children in Metro Vancouver, there were only 25 childcare spaces. However, the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood House Center is just one of many childcare centers still to come, with 400 new spaces being opened from 2024 to 2026 in the City of Vancouver. The 1,770 square meter center will have space for 69 children, from infants all the way up to 5 years old. These new spaces come when childcare is hard to come by for many Vancouver area parents. Nate Elms, BCIT News.
Prime Minister Mark Carney recently signed a document ordering his cabinet ministers to write new legislation. The document outlines the implementation of their election promise that would see the lowest marginal tax bracket cut by 1%. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne says although the Liberal government will not table a budget when Parliament makes its return in the coming weeks, there are plans to release an upcoming economic statement this fall.
In a sequence that is logical. The first thing you do is the first step of this government is a middle class tax cut. That's the first thing. You start with that. Then you say, well, you need to have a throne speech to say what are the priorities of the government. And once you've done that, then you do an economic statement, which is going to be the fall economic statement. So,
while an exact date for the fiscal plan has yet to be determined, Champagne says we can expect the proposed tax cut by July 1st. President Donald Trump says he urgently wants to work out a deal with Iran to come to an agreement on its nuclear program. On his three-country visit to the Mid-East region this week, Trump has been in talks with Qatar's emir in an attempt to reach an understanding. However, Trump insists Tehran, the capital of Iran, must end its support of proxy groups as part of any potential agreement. While attending a state dinner in Qatar earlier today, Trump expressed his want for the nation to reach a peaceful resolution with Iran.
It's a perilous situation, and we want to do the right thing. We want to do something that's going to save maybe millions of lives, because things like that get started and they get out of control. I've seen it over and over again.
RCMP say the bodies of 2 people have been found as crews battle a wildfire in a popular lakefront cottage area northeast of Winnipeg. Superintendent Chris Hasty says the bodies were found after RCMP received reports yesterday that people may have been stranded by the quick-spreading fire in the rural municipality of Lac-du-Bonnet.
The information provided to the detachment was pretty conclusive that we should be able to verify one way or another if someone was there. And then we went this morning, the detachment attended this morning, and we were able to confirm our worst fears.
Officers are working to identify the deceased, but it may take days. About 1,000 people have been ordered to leave the area as fires continue to burn in eastern Manitoba. A rock climber in the U.S. survived a 400-foot fall that caused 3 fatalities. The climber was reported to have lied unconscious for hours before waking later in the day to seek help. 38-year-old Anton Salik woke up suffering from blunt force trauma and internal bleeding before walking to his car and driving to a payphone to call for help over a time frame of 12 hours. Salik said an anchor He and his companions, placed on a mountainside in Washington, came undone, causing all of them to plummet down hundreds of feet. And that's all for your news updates today. That's been Senator Vargas, and you've been tuning in to the
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Teresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Welcome to BCIT's The Crow. I'm your host, Braden Coombs, and here's your 3:45 sports headlines. We start off with hockey. The Canucks' highly touted defenseman prospect Tom Willander has finally been signed to his 3-year entry-level contract. The contract is reported to have a cap hit of $950,000 per year. Willander was selected 11th overall in the 2023 NHL Draft. There was a bit of worry that Willander would return to the Boston University in the NCAA for his 3rd consecutive year. But thankfully, the contract kicks in come the 2025-2026 NHL season, and he will join the team for training camp in September. In other hockey news, there's been 2 big coach hirings today. After long consideration, the Vancouver Canucks have announced Adam Foote as their next head coach. This is Foote's first career head coaching job. Manny Malhotra was another prime candidate for the job, but he'll continue to coach the Abbotsford Canucks in their deep playoff run. Foote was the assistant coach for the team last year. The man he is replacing, Rick Tocchet, is getting a new job too. After much anticipation, Rocket is officially becoming the new head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. Rumors started speculating about the potential reunion as early as late March when the team fired John Tortorella. During his playing career, Tocchet spent 11 years with Philadelphia, starting and ending his career with the team. The Edmonton Oilers will look to wrap up their series against the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. The Oilers are currently up 3-1 in the series. With a win in Vegas, the Oilers will play in the Western Conference Final for the 2nd year in a row. The Golden Knights will be without star forward Mark Stone and forward Brandon Saad, who both sustained injuries. Head coach Chris Knobloch knows how they can match Vegas' energy.
Treat it as every other playoff game, one day at a time, one game. We're not looking at it as if we have to win 1 of 3.
The game is slated to start at 6:30 p.m. tonight. In the Eastern Conference, the Toronto Maple Leafs will be facing off against the Florida Panthers in Game 5 at 4 p.m. today. The Panthers will be without forward Evan Rodriguez, who suffered an injury in their last game. The Leafs would look to take a commanding 3-2 series lead in a crucial game at home. Now to baseball. The Blue Jays will look to bounce back after their disappointing loss last night against the Tampa Bay Rays. They're set to go up against the Rays yet again tonight in hopes of revenge. The game is set to start at 4 p.m. at Rogers Center. Chris Bassett is expected to receive the start, and Anthony Santander will be returning to the lineup after missing the last few games due to injury. In soccer, Canada's star striker Jonathan David has announced that he is leaving his club of 5 years, Lille FC. This means that David will be a free agent for this summer's transfer window. Italian side Napoli have already submitted a contract proposal to the Canadian. David announced his departure via social media today.
I wanted you to hear from me. After 5 years at the club, it's time to say goodbye. I spent 5 amazing years in Lille. I know it hasn't been the easiest, but I hope that my goals and celebrations have brought you guys some joy and happiness. And it's been a long and fun ride.
In football news, per Jordan Schultz of Fox Sports, multiple primetime games for the upcoming NFL season have been leaked. Big games like the Super Bowl rematch between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs are among the games that were leaked. The NFL is expected to release the full schedule for the next season at 5 p.m. tonight. The Baltimore Ravens and star running back Derrick Henry have finally agreed on a new 2-year contract extension worth $30 million. Henry, who is now 30 years old, rushed for 1,921 yards last season and led the league with 16 rushing touchdowns. In the NBA playoffs, 2 teams will be facing elimination tonight. The Boston Celtics will look to stay alive as they take on the New York Knicks in Game 5 tonight. The Knicks currently have a 3-1 series lead and will look to advance to the conference finals. The Celtics will be without star player Jason Tatum, who sustained an injury during their last game. In the Western Conference, the Minnesota Timberwolves will be looking to eliminate the Golden State Warriors tonight as well. That was your 1240 Sports Update. I'm your host, Braden Coombs, for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.